Hi everyone, this is Cheryl and welcome to my sewing room. I'm going to demonstrate how to put a really colorful border on this really cute Finding Dory baby panel quilt fabric. So let's get started. Before you start sewing anything onto the fabric or do any kind of cutting, I recommend you pre-wash the panel piece and all other fabrics you're going to use on it. Do a zigzag stitch on the raw edges here before you machine wash it because this fabric will unravel. After you've washed it, you want to cut this navy blue border down because it's uneven on each side. It's a different width. So I measured the shortest width, which was up here at the very top. So I'm going to cut it down to 1/4 inch wide all the way around. You're going to put the 1¼ inch line on your ruler right on this blue line here. Now this blue strip is not straight. So you're going to have to do your best to kind of cut some type of a straight line around this. So your blue strip might look a little uneven at first, but you've got to square it as best as you can. So put the 1¼ inch line on the blue line, and it's touching the light blue line. It's touching it a little bit, but I have a little bit of a gap in here. That's going to be unavoidable. So go ahead and begin trimming that navy blue line down. And you would continue to go around all 4 sides. This is the fabric that I have selected for the border that goes on the 4 sides of the panel. Up in the corners, I'm using this. Now you'll notice that all of the fabrics have sort of a ocean or seaside theme to it. This kind of represents wavy water, seahorses, anchors, and seashells. Now I happen to have this fabric left over from other projects. But when you're looking at the panel piece itself, look inside of that panel piece, look at the colors, and try to find fabrics that are similar in color. Also look to see if there are Finding Dory or Finding Nemo companion fabrics that could also work in it too. So just use your imagination. So out of the fabrics you're going to cut some that are 2½ by 4½ inches, 3½ by 4½ inches, 4 by 4, and then the corner pieces also 4 by 4. If you've never cut out quilt fabric before, I recommend you watch my video on how to cut out quilt fabric. The link is appearing right now in the upper right-hand corner. It will show you efficient, speedy ways to cut out all of these pieces very quickly. The number of pieces that you cut out will vary depending on the size of your panel piece. I would start out by cutting out 1 strip of fabric of each color, and then from that strip cut out some pieces. And if you need to cut more, you'll be able to. But you're probably going to need anywhere from 1/8 yard to maybe 1/4 yard, depending on how big you decide to cut your pieces. Take one side at a time and randomly lay out your pieces. Now as you stitch them together, it's this little strip that you've laid out here going to shrink a little bit because of the seam allowance. It's best if it's made just a little bit longer than just to come up short. So don't be afraid to keep adding things on. Once you've got it laid out, then go ahead and stitch them together. Bring front sides together and stitch 1/4 inch. And keep adding them on until you get one that's long enough or maybe even slightly longer. After you've got all of your strips stitched together, then you need to press the seams. So I always put a little spritz of water on mine because I don't think my steam iron is really doing its duty there. So then you're going to take one seam at a time and fold the first one under and then press it. And take the next one, fold it under and press. And you're going to keep going on down all of your strips that you've made, pressing these seams on the back side. Now you're going to press the seams on top. So lift up your strip and you're going to push all of these seams in one direction. So what I usually do is I have the first one I push and I keep this strip lifted because the seams will automatically go where they're supposed to go if you keep it lifted. So just keep going on down that strip till you get to the end, and do this with all of your strips. I'm laying the border strip out on the two longest edges first. So this is one and then the other one would be over here. When you're laying out border strips, and this goes for any quilt, is always have a little bit of fabric overhanging at each end. And I even had it over here at this end. Even though this piece of fabric is really small, I left about 1/4 of an inch because I want to cut everything perfectly even. But don't cut anything yet. First, stitch the border on and use 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then go to the other side and stitch that border on. After stitching the border on, press the seam on the back side. Then unfold and press the seam on top. And you're pressing this seam towards the border strip. And then again, press the other border also. Place your ruler along this edge. And now you're going to trim these corners over here straight. And that's why you always want to leave a little bit of fabric sticking out on each end so that you know you're going to get it really straight. And then go to the other corner and do the same thing. Line it up all along here so that you make sure that it is straight and trim it off. And make sure you do that on all 4 corners. Fold your borders over the top of the quilt. And now you're going to measure from the very edge of the quilt to over to this side here, the very edge of the quilt. And then measure the other end. And you'll probably find that they don't come out the same because panel fabrics are never very square when they're printed because fabric stretches in different directions, especially when it's been on that bolt a long time. So one of my ends came out to 31 3/4. The other end came out to 32 1/4. So there's a 1/2 inch difference. So you want to cut each end exactly to fit that particular end. So you're going to take your 2 remaining strips and cut them to fit from that raw edge to raw edge. So one of mine's going to be cut 31 3/4 inches long. The other one will be cut 32 1/4 inch long. Now remember, yours will probably be different than mine. So always cut it to what your measurements are. At each end of the strip, take your corner squares, which remember are 4 1/2 inches square, and place them on top and stitch 1/4 inch. And you're doing this at each end of the strip. Then after stitching it on, you're going to press this seam on the back side, then lift it up and press the seam towards the strip itself. So both these seams are coming in this way. Place the strip face down on top, and at the corners, you want to make sure that the seam on the bottom is going in the opposite direction on top. So you're lining up this last seam here with the seam on the other border strip. Once you've got it all lined up and pinned down, then stitch 1/4 inch along there all the way across and do the same thing at the opposite end. After you're done stitching, then press the seam on the back side, Then unfold and open it up and press the seam on the top side, and you're pushing that seam out towards the border. Well, here it is. The border is on. You can use this style of border on any quilt. I've done this on many quilts, and it's something that you can use up your scraps with too. For other quilting projects, go to the green screen at the end of this video and click on the links. Now, if you liked this video, click on that old thumbs up button. And click on share to share this video with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click on that red button down there in the lower right hand portion of your screen. Don't forget to enter your email address and click on that little bell notification so that you will receive emails about my latest video. I'm Cheryl, and I'm so glad you came to my sewing room. I'll see you next time, and don't forget, happy sewing.